Well, hey there, everybody. I'm Dave Rothenberg, the host of, appropriately named, Dave Rothenberg's Giants Obsession. We're back for a Monday edition of the show. You know what I've realized? That the Sunday shows are very emotional. They're very draining. They take a lot out of me, and they're exhausting. Because I got home after this last night, and I was all wired and annoyed, and my wife says to me, well, why do you do it if it gets you so crazy? There you go. Why do we do it if it gets you so crazy? Why do we rush here and sit here week after week to discuss the ineptitude of this organization if it gets you so crazy? And mind you, yesterday was a stadium that was probably, I don't know, 50, 60% full of Niners fans. So it's bad enough that you lose. It's bad enough that your run defense looks like a sieve. It's worse that you're doing it in front of your home crowd, which is really the opposing crowd. And now for the third consecutive season, you've fallen to 2-7. So what do we have on tap today? Pat Leonard, Daily News, going to join us in about 35 minutes, and which is unusual for us. Usually we're guests around 1:15. I asked him to join today, and he said he'd love to. Big fan of this show, but here's the rub. Brian Dable speaks at about 1:20. So Dable will speak, and then we'll have Pat fresh from the Giants facility to discuss everything that Dable says and to break everything down around 1:30, maybe 1:35. A lot for us to do until we get there. We'll look at our picks, which were not great, but I feel like they should have been better than, in fact, they were. We'll look at the loss to San Francisco and what went wrong and how it gets fixed and can it get fixed. We'll look at the coaching staff. We'll look at the GM. Because I think you are starting to have a fever pitch of people wanting change. Now, you won't get it now. You don't need it now. But there's a fever pitch of folks wanting and needing change. And we'll look at the NFC East, which, oh boy, Giants are not very good, but Washington is a disaster. Dallas at best is a 500 team. This might be as down as this division's been in quite some time. This is a one bid division. That's it. It'll be Philadelphia, and it'll be no more than Philadelphia. So tomorrow, 4:00 Eastern, that's a big time. That's a big spot. The trade deadline. So we'll review what we've seen. Eagles are as good as really almost any team you've seen at manipulating the whole trade deadline, and they do it again. They get Jalen Phillips. We'll get into that as we continue along here. So much to do today. And we still reflect off of the game yesterday, which is highly frustrating for so many of us. And the thing that's so frustrating is we are led to believe that this Giants front four is wonderful, right? That's what everyone tells you. They're terrific. Kayvon Thibodeau is playing at the highest level he's played at, and Dexter Lawrence was called out, and he's going to be better. Even on the worst day, he's still a good player. And Abdul Carter is rookie of the year defensively. It can be so good and such a massive problem. Brian Burns, maybe defensive player of the year. And he's got 11 sacks and tackles for losses and all these great stats and numbers and everything. Well, how come they can't stop the run? Right? I mean, last week, Philadelphia ran a roughshod over them. And this week, the Niners do the same. Now, it's not as bad, right? Last week, Philly ran for 276 yards. This week was 156 or 57 or something like that. But it's insane. Should not be allowing that kind of yardage week in and week out. It's embarrassing. And you're getting it almost feels like you're having your manhood taken from you at these games, because the run defense is based on effort and kind of tactically, keeping guys funneled inside, and they cannot do it. Once you gain the edge, you're going to pick up 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, and it happens time after time after time. So stopping the run, how do you do that? You look back at some of the best defensive minds in NFL history, and it's funny. I harken back to 2001. Which is the Super Bowl that we saw, and it was January of 2001, and it was the Tom Brady-led Patriots going up against the greatest show on turf and the unbelievable. And we have a new member, and we're thrilled to have J.J. Roth, 1982, become a member. So thank you. We'll add you to the list, and we'll make mention. You're going to get special things, and it's terrific. But I harken back to 2001. New England and the Rams, greatest show on turf, right? And it was Torrey Holt, and it was Isaac Bruce, and it's Kurt Warner, Trent Green, who got hurt in that preseason game, and then of course it's Marshall Faulk and Belichick. And it's ironic that we kind of go back to Belichick. You look back, what was the game plan? And he said, I want to hit this guy every single time. If he runs for a passing route, I want to hammer him. If he runs the football, I want to hammer him. If he's not in the play, if he's a bystander on a play action pass and runs into the flat, I want the linebacker to hammer him. And you think back to some of these Giants' great defenses that they've had in the past, even when the teams weren't all that great. You look back at the Leonard Marshalls of the world and the Jim Burts of the world, who was an undersized defensive tackle, right? But Jim Burt, it was an undersized player. And Bobby Abrams was a mediocre linebacker, and Brad Van Pelt and John Mendenhall. But the Giants, they never were run on like this. And you think back to Bill Belichick and what he was able to do with this defense, and what the Giants against the great defenses of all time, offenses of all time, like the Bills in 1990, what they do against them. I mean, the game plan was so brilliant that they took the playbook and sent it to the Hall of Fame and said, here, you're going to want to hang on to this. That's how brilliant it was, because they said what we're going to allow Buffalo to do, because Buffalo K-Gun, the offense, was unstoppable. And the Giants knew they couldn't stop them. So they came up with this whole game plan. And the game plan was, we're going to possess the ball for 40 minutes, which is what they did. And Buffalo's elite offense was going to have the ball for 20 minutes. And every time, they're not going to throw long. We're not going to allow them to. We're going to let them funnel them over the middle, right? And when they catch the ball 5, 8, 10 yards over the middle, we're going to hammer them continuously. So much so that Andre Reed won't want to go over the middle. And we're going to allow Thurman Thomas on the ground to beat us. It feels like it's so far ago that the Giants had these bright defensive minds. And now you look at where they are, and it's nowhere near. And again, even when the Giants weren't a great team, they always prided themselves on defense. And you watch it now, and quite frankly, it's repulsive to see. To see Deonte Banks play bumper cars with Brian Robinson. See, the thing to me that's so frustrating from yesterday is Christian McCaffrey's a Hall of Fame running back. So he's dicing you up. And I mean, there's a play in the flat where he catches it and they forget to cover him on that first drive on the third down. Fine, right? Fine. But here's the problem. And the problem is this, is when McCaffrey comes out of the game and they lean on Brian Robinson, who's a garden variety journeyman running back who I believe was acquired for a 6th round pick from the Niners via Washington. He comes into the game and he looks like he's a great running back as well. Saquon was awesome last week against the Giants. You know who else was awesome? Tank Bigsby, who was just traded from Jacksonville to Philadelphia. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a star in this league. It doesn't matter if you're just a guy in this league. It doesn't matter if you're a cast-off in this league. It doesn't matter if you're just traded from someone else in this league. You will go up against this Giants defense and you will dominate, because the defense stinks. They cannot. So now, because I know it's because of injuries, right? And then I'm sure Bowen and Dable would say, because of injuries, they can't stop the pass because the secondary is such a disaster. And because they stink at stopping the run, they can't do that either. So let me see if I have this figured out now. They can't stop the pass. They can't stop the run. How are you supposed to win a football game? Well, you wonder why you're sitting here at 2-7. Put that up. I saw something glance across my screen. It was in green. I was intrigued, and I'd like to see it again. Oh, JJ Roth. We know it.
Yeah, he upgraded from a casual to a fanatic member. So
what does that mean?
He is on the 2nd tier of YouTube members now.
And what does that mean?
So now he gets personalized video from you.
I don't have to send him like naked videos or anything.
No, you don't have to do that. That's a different website.
I would.
That's a different website. We'll work on that maybe in the next coming months.
Yeah, and especially with my weight loss journey. I mean, that would be something very nice. By the way, Nico, I hear your voice from above, like you're a god. So he's a YouTube member on the 2nd tier. What's the top tier?
That is right now. So we are doing we are reorganizing our YouTube members. We are doing it starting in a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be 2 levels. We're going to have the casual member, and then we're going to have the fanatic tier member. And the casual members, the lowest member, you get member-only videos, and the Fanatic tier, you also get personalized videos and a couple other things. You could check it out down below when we
and
update it.
people on YouTube can like us and subscribe to us as well.
They can absolutely do that.
Yeah, and my people are telling me that we have over 2,700 followers, subscribers on YouTube. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And I'm also told that only 30% of the people that view this show subscribe to it.
That is correct.
So the question is, why? Like, if you're watching it and you enjoy it, and it would help everyone involved to like it and subscribe to it, then I would think that'd be something that you could do. Also, to let you know, social media, Instagram, TikTok, DR Giants Obsession, on Twitter, DRNYGO, and we're on Spotify, Dave Rothenberg's Giants Obsession. So that's the exciting stuff we have going on. And now there's members and tiers and all sorts of wonderful stuff. More wonderful than the Giants, in fact. Way better than what the Giants are providing on the field. Now, defensively yesterday, like the Niners, much better than the Giants yesterday. And the game wasn't really all that close, right? I mean, the Giants had opportunities. They jump out to a 7-0 lead, and they allow San Francisco to come right down the field and tie the game. Then San Francisco scores again, and it's 17-7, and you're toward the latter stages of the first half, and you think to yourself, all right, well, hopefully San Fran doesn't score, and we're down 17-7 at the end of the first half. But that's not what happens. What happens then is the Giants get an interception. Big pressure from Burns, up into the air. Carter picks it off. Giants are set up. Now you think to yourself, okay, now hang on. Now, worst case scenario, we're going to be sitting here looking at this at a 17-10 and back in the game. So what do? You figure they spread it out? All they do is run this quarterback. They're going to wind up getting him killed, and we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. So what do? A draw. You lose yardage, and then you get nothing. And then you think, all right, well, Gano make the field goal, and he misses it. And now you go into the locker room 17-7. But now the fans that are there, that have traveled to the game, spent their money, parked their cars, eaten their food, sit there and watch that slop of a first half, now they boo you off the field at the end of the first half. And Jackson Dart said something to the effect of, boy, I've never been a home team in a game where there were so many fans from the other team rooting for that team. Well, if you're, I mean, I love the Giants. And I think most people that are watching this do, in fact, love the Giants. If you love the Giants, why would you go? Like, why would you go to this game? Unless you gave me free tickets, I wouldn't even think about going to this game. So I can travel 2+ hours to get there, spend $50 on parking, buy food, walk into the game, watch them lose, get out of the parking lot in an hour and a half, and get home at 7:30 last night? No, I wouldn't want to do it. I think you're bringing your family of 4 on a Sunday, so your whole day is gone, and now you spent how much money? $500? $600? $700? No, I'm not doing it. Give me a better product. There's too many choices now. Give me a better product. And I think that most Giants fans would agree. Until this gets better, I don't want to go. I'll watch it. I'm addicted. I love them. You love them. We all do. I get it. I'm not going. I have no desire to go to a Giants game until things change. And I think most people feel the same. The Niners were better. The Giants were not as good. And it's the same song and dance over and over and over. All right, so let's get the trades of where we are around the NFL so far. So just this morning, Miami trades, and boy, Howie Roseman, man, as much as it pains me to say it, he is really something. So they trade a 3rd-round pick in exchange for Jalen Phillips on the Dolphins. I don't want to say he's an elite pass rusher. He's a very, very good pass rusher, and the Eagles need him, and now they have him, so they add that to the mix. Jair Alexander, who was the big acquisition this offseason for the Ravens. I don't know for what reason it just wasn't working, and they make a trade. They trade Alexander and a 2027 7th to Philadelphia for a 6th. So really, Philadelphia gets Jair Alexander for, in essence, peanuts, really nothing. And then they acquire Michael Carter from the Jets in exchange for John Mechie. So that's what the Eagles have done. There's 5 trades so far, 3 of them involving the Eagles, 2 of them the Patriots. Patriots are really nominal trades. New England trades Kyle Duggar on a 2027 7th to Pittsburgh for a 6th, and then Keon White and a 2026 7th round pick to San Francisco for a 2026 6th round pick. So what you see now is teams are taking a player of moderate ability and including a 7th round pick, and in exchange they'll get a 6th round pick. So you're getting rid of a guy that you don't want, and you're getting back in return like an upgraded draft pick is what in essence you're getting. So that's where we are as far as the trade deadline is concerned. Of course, the trade deadline is tomorrow at 4:00 Eastern. And we'll see what the Giants are going to do. See, the weird thing is, I think we're starting to have some groundswell of this coaching GM regime cannot be back. And if you have that mindset that the coach and the GM can't be back, well, how in the world are you going to allow this GM who may be fighting for his job to make a trade that's of any importance? And I did hear this from a really good source at the stadium yesterday, and this is upsetting. We can even ask Pat Leonard about it. They told me that John Mara was at the game yesterday, and we know that he's suffering from cancer. John Mara was at the game yesterday, really struggled to move around, looked very weak, and at halftime left the game. So that doesn't make you feel great on numerous levels. A, you don't want someone that you respect and you'd like to be healthy to not be healthy. So that's obviously concern number one. Concern number two is, and you hate for the Giants to get in the way of Mr. Mara's health or his recovery or his, battle with this insipid disease. But I mean, we're Giants fans. That's what we are. Can John Mara put the time and the energy and the effort into remedying what's going on with this organization right now? His organization, his baby. Right. This is the family business. Well, can he spend the time to, in fact, move on from Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen if he sees fit? Can he spend the time to sit down and interview candidates and go through that whole process? Because it's a lot and it's exhausting. And, in fairness to him, it's probably not priority number one. And I know, and and we all agree that he loves the Giants. Right. His father loved the Giants and his uncle loved the Giants and his grandfather started the Giants. And we've seen this forever. It's a family run business. But occasionally real life kind of gets in the way. And if he can't, we'll ask Pat about this. If he can't, make this number one priority, then do you worry that maybe they would keep this regime just for another year until things change health-wise for him? So there's a lot of things that you have to think about with this organization right now. Let's bring in Nico and Steve, because my mouth is getting dry and I want to drink a little bit of water. So I want those guys to pop on and show their pretty faces. And there's, you look an awful lot like Brian Daboll, Nico. You did in fact dress up as Brian Daboll.
I did.
That costume, my friend, may wind up in the trash. And of course, we have Steve, the great Steve, who dressed up for Halloween as Sir Elton John. So
my costume was a hit on Halloween.
Your costume was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a hit.
It was great. Did you go out in that costume?
I went out in that costume, yeah.
And
hit.
Everyone was like, "Oh, what a great costume!"
They were like, "Dude,"
rave reviews.
Guys were coming up to me like, "What are we gonna do this Sunday?" I'm like, I was like,
so they actually, like, people are so dumb now that walk the streets that they actually thought you were Brian Daboll.
I don't know. They were coming up to me. They were like,
have the pillow on.
Yeah, I didn't even have the pillow.
Even without the extra padding.
Yeah, they came up to me. They're like, "What do you think we're gonna do with Kayvon?" And I'm like, I don't know.
It's a good thing you didn't dress up as Joe Schoen. They would have had you make trades on the spot.
Yeah, I would have started cooking up trades with the people.
So there were. Let me just see if I really fully understand this. The depths of stupidity of people that walk the earth, the same planet that we walk. Right? They were so flummoxed by your outfit that they thought in some bizarre world you in fact were Brian Daboll and would be able to add insight into what's going on with the team or something to that effect.
They were playing into the bit that I was Brian Daboll. I had like guys dressed up as like Cam Scadaboo come up to, like, I was like gabbing them up. Like there was a guy dressed up as Nick Saban. He goes, "Coach," and like have like a little nod to each other.
But when they were dressed up as Cam Scadaboo and Nick Saban, were they at your level of outfit?
No, I mean, the kid was wearing the Scadaboo was really good. Cam Scadaboo jersey and a hard hat, which was kind of funny.
That's nice. That's cute. And then the Saban, it didn't live up to you, right?
Saban looked good. Saban did look good. He had the headphones on and everything. He looked good. But you know what he didn't have that I had? My challenge flag. which
Right.
was getting thrown around.
Right. Well,
I
here's the
did
thing.
steal that from you.
Yeah.
Nick Saban doesn't really need a challenge flag because he's working for ESPN.
Yeah, exactly.
So unless he's going to challenge like going to commercial on time or something like
Yeah.
that's really unnecessary. All right. So I know people are watching. I know they want to get involved. What kind of questions and comments do we have right now?
So we have one coming in from good friend of the show, David Carlson.
Okay. He loves the show.
Every game I'm more convinced Daboll is just like Josh McDaniels, very good at helping develop young quarterbacks, but a terrible head coach.
I mean, it's hard to argue that, Dave, right? I mean, he looks like this is too much for him. He also, I don't know if you feel like this, like the demeanor on the sidelines is very unsettling. Like this crazy, fanatical, irrational guy, who's challenging plays that you're not allowed to challenge. It doesn't feel healthy. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like a head coach is supposed to have like a certain amount of just, I don't know, like aura around him and a certain amount of like a capability to keep calm in the most pressure packed moments. And it just doesn't feel like he's got that. Throwing tablets and, throwing headsets and freaking out on defensive coordinators. And, it's almost like he acts like a fan would act, like I would act or like you would act, which for us is great and endearing and maybe entertaining. But I don't want the head coach, like Bill Belichick knew everything. And I don't want to compare him to maybe the greatest coach in the history of football, but he knew everything going on at every moment of every game, right? Like he would say, all right, I want you to get into the locker room at this point. I want you to out of the locker room at this point. I want you to be warming up at this point. And it just doesn't feel like you have that same buttoned up level with Brian Daboll that you have with other coaches around this league. And I think it translates into the on-field product because the Giants on the field are just, they don't look like they're a very well-coached team right now.
I think at first, like when we first saw Daboll come in with all this passion, all this energy, it was great. But I think it's getting old real fast at least for most fans.
Here's the thing. If the Giants were winning games, it wouldn't be getting old. If the Giants were winning games, it would be endearing. You would love it, right? If he gets into the face of the quarterback and then the quarterback goes down the field and leads you on an 80-yard drive for a touchdown and you're 7-2 and not 2-7, he'd be the toast of the town. Here's the thing. The Giants fan base is passionate. They love this team. This is not a Johnny-come-lately fan base. This is a fan base that's been around since 1925. And our great-grandfathers passed it on to our grandfathers, who's passed it on to our fathers, who passed it on to us. It's generational. And right now, what the Giants fan sees Brian Daboll is doing is, in fact, some way ruining this franchise. And they don't want to see it anymore, and they're sick of it, and there's frustration. So that's what I would say about, you're this far away from being like, oh, all the Daboll stuff, it's cute. You're winning games. You're competing. He did the same crap year one. And they went to the playoffs, and we found it to be phenomenal. And now, nothing, right?
Yeah.
Nothing. So that's how I feel.
This is a hot topic on our channel at this point. Teasley SPT, Jags kicker is knocking down 70-yarders, and we can't hit it from 45.
Right. That's right. I mean, Cam Little makes a 68-yarder, and the Giants can't do anything. Is there any team that is worse with the kicking game than the Giants? I mean, multiple games, Graham Gano just can't suit up because he's older and he gets banged up in pregame warmups. Then if he can't play, you're kicking guys that shouldn't be kicking in this version of the NFL. McAdamany, whatever his name is, he's NFL Europe. That's great. Let him kick for the Rhine Fire. I'm totally fine with that. I think that's wonderful. With the Giants, no. Absolutely not. And then Gano's back yesterday, and he misses a 45-yarder. And then the Giants are down by 17 points, and they're at the 4-yard line of San Francisco, and they decide to kick a field goal in that spot. It's just, I don't know. It's so many questionable decisions, and it never seems to stop, and it just compiles, and it's frustrating, and it's annoying, and quite frankly, it's old. And it's another year where you're before Election Day, guys, and the Giants stink yet again.
Yeah.
What else?
Let's see. We have one from the great Louis Marcone.
Yeah.
I said
I
that
thought you were
correct.
going to say the Moloko Velicet. but
No, the Moloko Velicet, that would be a great treat. This is a terrible coach team. At minimum, Dayball has to go. Shane should go with him, but at a minimum, Dayball should be gone.
And that kind of feels like the consensus, right, guys? Is that we all are of the mindset of changes need to be made. And I was talking about this earlier on my radio show, and I want to revisit this now. Herein lies the rub, because most years the Giants are looking for the quarterback, right? And you say, okay, I don't want to win games in the second half of the season because I want to get that quarterback. Well, it feels like you feel pretty confident that you've answered that question, right? That you have the quarterback, Nico and Steve. You both would agree with that. He looks like a stud. He's played 6 games. He's highly athletic. He's mobile. He has a good arm. He's a leader. He's a winner. It feels like he is a winner. Great. So you're 2-7. So ordinarily, I think you'd say, well, let's go win some games, right? Let's go beat the Bears. Let's beat the Packers. The Packers lost at home to Carolina. We can't beat the Packers at our home. Well, why not? Oh, it might not even be our home that day. It might be more, cheeseheads than it is Giants fans. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like, why can't you beat the Lions in Detroit? Not that you will, not that you should, but they just lost at home to Minnesota. So, like, there are things that you look at, like they play Washington, probably be without Jaden Daniels. Can you beat Marcus Mariota? Yeah. Can you beat Dallas at home? You had Dallas on the ropes in Dallas. That's the last week of the season. Can you beat them? Yeah. Well, why would you not be able to? Can you win in Las Vegas against the Raiders? Well, why not? Why can't you beat the Raiders in Vegas? I think that's realistic, very realistic. But here's the problem. How tenuous is this? Like, if you knew behind closed doors that the Giants were going to move in a different direction with coach and GM, whatever, I'll root for them, right? Let's go play good football and let's win the game. But I don't know. Does 5 win? Like, can Brian Daboll and Joe Shane sit in front of the ownership group and say, all right, guys, we had the toughest schedule in football. I gave you 5 wins. I gave you 6 wins, right? So imagine they go 4-4 down the stretch. I gave you 6 wins. You got the quarterback. He's the answer. We deserve to be back. And what happens if the Giants go 6-11 or 5-12? And last year was 3. You said you wanted improvement. I gave you 2 games of improvement. I gave you the quarterback, and now we're heading in the right direction. So from my vantage point, it's terrifying because if you really want to clean house and you feel confident that Shane and Daboll are not the answer as far as this regime is concerned, then how can you root for the Giants to beat the Bears? Now, it may not matter. You may go out and get bludgeoned by the Bears. They have Kyle Monangai, and we know he's a kid from Rutgers. He ran for 170 yards yesterday. He'll light you up because everybody lights you up. But how do you just feel good and confident in rooting for the Giants when you don't know what's going to happen? You don't know what that magic number is. If they get to 5, can they sell themselves and say it's 2 games better and we have the quarterback and the schedule is brutal? Think about that, right? Just so, Steve, you don't speak much. Let me talk to you for a moment. Nico, I've had enough of you. All right. So, Steve, you're not a Giants fan, right?
No.
You're a Jets fan. So, God
super
bless
happy
you.
Jets fan.
God bless you. But play the role of John Mara right now. You be John Mara, okay?
All
right. Hey, Coach Mara. Owner Mara, Mr. Mara, Brian Daboll here. How are you?
How you doing?
Good. How do you feel about where we are right now?
Not too happy, Mr. Daboll.
Okay, so I understand. But here's okay. So last year we won 3 games, Mr. Mara, correct? That was very disappointing. But we didn't have a quarterback, right? Daniel Jones was released. We were done with him.
You had a little excuses.
Right. We had some built-in excuses last year, right, Mr. Mara?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, this year, Mr. Mara, you would agree that we've had like unequivocally the toughest schedule in the NFL, right?
You do, yes.
Yeah, right. So we've had to overcome the toughest schedule in the NFL. I would think we get a little leeway for that, right?
I guess so.
Maybe just a little, Mr. Mara. Okay, so let me continue on. So not only did we have the toughest schedule in the NFL, we lost Malik Neighbors. You look at him as a dynamic. We lost Cam Scatterbull, who's a terrific player. Paulson Adebo got hurt. Javon Holland got hurt. Cordell Flock got hurt. Mr. Mara, I don't know that any coach could do anything with this defense, being that we're decent to begin with, but that now we have all these injuries. You agree with that, right, Mr. Mara?
We're dropping like flies. Yeah,
we're dropping, right, Mr. Mara? We're dropping like flies. So, okay, now, Mr. Mara, last year we won 3 games. You said it had to be better. I'm going to give you 5 wins this year. We're going to go on to beat the Raiders. We're going to beat Washington, and we're going to win against the Bears. I'm going to give you 5 wins. So you said it has to get better. I'm going to go from 3 to 5. Mr. Merrill, you would agree that the quarterback is good, right?
He's great.
So, all right.
Fantastic.
So we identified that need, and we got him with the 25th pick in the draft. You're pleased with that, right?
Very pleased.
Right. So we're going to go from 3 wins to 5. Mind you, toughest schedule in the NFL. And I gave you the quarterback. And on top of that, we've been ravaged by injuries. Do you not think that I should be back for at least 1 more year?
You are putting up a great case, Mr. Babel.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Okay. So, and there you go. Thank you, Mr. Mara. I appreciate it. So there you are. Right there you are. And that's why I'm nervous about where the Giants are, because you want to win games, but you're nervous to win games because of the situation with this team. Andy Hart. Let me tell you, the Giants are struggling, but my Commanders are officially in the toilet. So don't worry about finishing bottom of the division. We got that. No, you're a game ahead of us and you've beaten us. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about the Giants. All right. You got your own issues to worry about. Terry McLaurin, you allow that contract to go on all summer. You finally sign him. Now he can't stay healthy. Now your quarterback is broken again. Your best defensive rusher is out for the season. So don't you worry about the Giants. You worry about your own team. All right. Let's get to my fixins because we're getting ready for Pat Leonard to join us in a couple of moments. All right. Nico, I got to bring you on here. No, you know what I want to do? I want to ask who makes my fixins.
That would be me.
Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take some medicine here. Ready? Okay. Put back the fixins, but keep yourself. Oh, you can. I just want to hear your voice.
Okay.
So I want you to read to me through the fixins, please.
Pass defense, rush defense, and dart safety.
That says safety.
Oh. It doesn't.
Yeah. See, at my fixins bar, I like to be grammatically correct, and in this fixins bar, we're not grammatically correct.
No, we're not.
Yeah. So I'm worried about darts safety. It is a major concern for me and many Giants fans out there. But in all seriousness, what needs to be fixed? The pass defense. It's unbelievably bad. I mean, the Niners don't even have Ricky Pearsall, their number 1 weapon, and they're running roughshod over you in the secondary. So it's a massive, massive problem. Rush defense. You've almost never seen anything like it. The Giants are allowing the other teams to run down their throats at a clip that I don't think you've seen since 1959. And very well done. And this is the big one. And I don't know why they do what they do. And that is the safety of Jackson Dart, not the safety of Jackson Dart, the safety of Jackson Dart. It is a massive problem. We'll look at yesterday. CJ Stroud gets hit, concussion, leaves the game. Jaden Daniels gets hit, dislocates his arm, leaves the game, may miss the entirety of the season. This kid is taking punishment. And the thing that drives me so crazy is it's so unnecessary. There's no reason for him to take punishment like this. None. There's no reason for it. What should be happening is when you're down 17, you're down 34-17, and you're running quarterback bootlegs and you're doing designed runs. Like, no, it doesn't make sense. Be smarter. That's on Brian Daboll. That's on coaching. Kid, here's the thing. We're not going to win this game. I know you want to. We're not going to. Live to see another day. Because I promise you, what is going to happen sooner rather than later, and the only reason you even watch the Giants now is because of the quarterback, right? Like you want to see Jackson Dart week in and week out. Well, you're not going to see him for much longer because you have 8 games left and playing the way he plays. And I want to win as badly as anybody. But there's times where you have to recognize we're not going to win this game. Yesterday against the Niners, you're down 34-17. You were not winning that football game. You weren't. So yeah, there's one of 2 things that you can do. You can either take out Jackson Dart from the game, or if you're Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, you can say, we trust you. We believe in you. But you need to do a solid for us and not take that punishment. And if you're taking that level of punishment, I can't play it down the stretch here because there's really no reason to. And that continues every single week. He's been in the medical tent twice in 6 games. And I think every time I've watched him play so far this season, we're audibly in my home yesterday. Oh, groaning like, oh, he takes massive punishment. And a lot of those hits he takes are for no reason. So it has to change, and it has to change quickly. So that's the Fixins and what I'm going to serve up at my Fixins bar: pass defense, rush defense, and the safety of Jackson Dart. I feel unfortunate to have to bring this to your attention, but my picks from this week, and the guys were not nice to me yesterday because I was 0-2, and they're like, "Oh, looks like you did really well on your picks this week," which was factually very incorrect. So my locks this week, and you know what the weird thing is? I really feel like I should have gone 2-1 this week. Seahawks was easy breezy, 38-14, cake. It was like taking candy from a baby, and we had a lot of candy this weekend for Halloween, right? So that's 1-0. Lions, they didn't deserve to win that game. They were giving 9.5, and they outright lost. I didn't think JJ McCarthy could do that. I really didn't. So I was impressed, and I was surprised, and I was horrified to see what happened in Detroit. And then the Texans. I mean, firstly, you lose your starting quarterback for the game. You take a 3-0 lead. You're up 9-7. You're up 12-7. You're up 15-7 into the fourth quarter. Then you allow a touchdown. He's like, all right, 15-13. But you still got to cover the 1.5. They go for 2. They get the 2-point conversion. 15-15. All right. So now we just need a field goal. Don't get the field goal. Denver gets a field goal at the buzzer. They win another game at the buzzer via the field goal, and Denver somehow, some way improves to 7-2 on the season, bringing us to 1-2 on the week, and a really embarrassing, as you can see from my reaction there, 11-16 on the season. So we are not pleased about it, but that's where we sit right now. All right. So Pat Leonard is going to join us momentarily. Brian Daboll is just finishing up his weekly media conference, and he gets questioned, and I'm imagining that's really great fun right now over at the Giants facility. Do you have any other questions or comments, guys, that we can get through right now as we wait for Pat Leonard? I have other things I'd like to get to, but is there anything else that's on the horizon right now?
No, there's no questions right now.
Nobody has any
No,
questions.
there's plenty of questions, but we'll let you discuss what you want to discuss.
You don't find that they're worthy questions right now?
Not yet. We're collecting a lot for our Dave 6-pack that I think we're going to do after the interview.
Oh, today?
Yeah.
So we're going to do Pat Leonard, and then we're going to do the 6-pack.
Hopefully.
Okay. But we have not heard from Pat Leonard as of yet.
He said Daboll is finishing up, and he's going to be on as soon as Daboll finishes up, which should be
Do you want to run through the NFC standings while we wait for Pat Leonard?
Yes, we
can
do
do that. Right? Oh, why don't we do that then? NFC East standings. This looks like it's going to be the first time in a very long time that you're going to have a repeat winner in this division. Eagles, they were on bye this week. They beat the Giants last week. They're getting healthier. Now they've made trades to make themselves a better team. Philadelphia checks in at 6-2. Dallas, of course, plays tonight. Their defense is not bad. Their defense is an all-time level of ineptitude. They allow 30 points when they get onto the field. Dallas hosts Arizona tonight. They should win that game. You have very little confidence that they will, and their schedule is unsightly enough that they probably won't get themselves into the postseason. Washington is going to be that team that everyone thought was going to be really good this year, and they're going to soil themselves, and I think they kind of did it to themselves. They played games with Terry McLaurin. Jaden Daniels has been banged up for the majority of the season, and now last night, I don't understand why they continued to show us that injury continuously, like over and over and over. The weird thing is the Scadaboo injury. They're like, no. We don't want to keep showing the Scadaboo injury. It was so gruesome, and it was, but they'll show you the Jaden Daniels injury continuously. So Washington checks in at 3-6. You might look at it and say, well, why has Philly played 8 and the Giants have played 9 and Washington have played 9 and the Cowboys will also be having played 9 after tonight? And the rationale behind that, the reasoning behind that is Philly had their bye, and the Giants, Washington, and Dallas have not yet had their bye. So the Giants are 2-7. And by the way, when is the Giants bye? Like, how does this make any sense? I get it. Like, you play who like you're linked up with. So you play the division in your conference, which is the NFC North, which is brutal, and then you play the division on the other side. right? So, and that's the AFC West. And then you play other last place teams. Like yesterday was a battle of last year's last place teams. So it's just the luck or lack thereof of the draw, and that's what you had to deal with. But the Giants' bye is week 14. Like, you can't make it up. I understand that there's nothing you can do about the schedule, and you're going to take on the NFC North and the Vikings and the Lions and the Packers and the Bears this week, right? But week 14 getting the bye, what does that do for you? Like, what does getting the bye week 14 do for you when you'll be dead and buried? You're dead and buried now. What are you going to be like week 14? And yesterday, I felt, and you can wipe those standings away. I appreciate it. I felt like I have for the last couple of years. See, for a minute, I was back. For a minute, I was alive. They beat the Chargers. They're 1-3. They lose to New Orleans. And then you go back down. And then they beat the Eagles. You're 2-4. But you're winning games. And you're looking competent. And you feel like, man, this team's heading in the right direction. And then the Broncos game, as awful as it was, and it was dreadful. Dreadful. But at least you had emotion after that game. You were angry. You were belligerent. You were incensed. You know what you were? Leave that up, by the way. I'll get to it in a second. You were alive. You actually felt alive after the Broncos game. And then you got bludgeoned by the Eagles. And now you got bludgeoned again yesterday. And I'm watching that game yesterday. And this is sad to say, with the same way I've watched the last couple of years. All right. This is what we are. There's no life. There's no excitement. There's no anger. There's no, I'm going to go to the cabinet and grab a bag of chips to quench my appetite. There's none of that. This is what we are. We stink again. It's the same song and dance. Next week we'll take on the Bears. I'll go through the motions. I'll watch every game. But welcome to Giants football. Kevin Davis with a super chat comment. The Giants need to clean house from the top down. Family members in executive positions included. Mr. Mara, Mr. Tisch, save us. All right, well, herein lies the problem. You talk about family members in executive positions. I mean, how is that going to happen? They're gonna fire Chris Mara? Is that you're not allowed to work within the organization anymore? Now, if Chris Mara gets promoted or winds up as the ultimate decision maker, that's a massive problem. But if he's buried somewhere within the front office, they're not going to fire him. They're not going to. See, what Joe Shane did in taking over from Dave Gettleman, who set the franchise back years, is at least he got the Giants relevant. Like, do you remember Dave Gettleman talking? Like, he joked about it, and in retrospect, I guess it's funny. He's like, we're gonna have computer folks, is what we're gonna have computers and computer folks within the organization. And you heard it, and you're like, wait, like teams are running this whole analytical process of how to appropriately run their organization, and the Giants are just getting computers and people that understand how to run the analytics. So you went from the dinosaur age to like, hey, Joe Shane is smart, right? You might not like the job he's done, but he's smart. He's progressive. The Giants are actually adding pieces into the mix here where they're literate in this generation of how you run an organization. The worst thing would be is if you somehow take a step back. Like, if you're going to move on from Joe Shane, you would just hope to God that it would be, in the right direction. And at least more of like, all right, it's someone who also is competent and you're moving in the right direction, as opposed to you lose out on that. And then all of a sudden you take a step back and you end up with a Gettleman kind of guy that you're comfortable with. And that's the thing as well. Sometimes you have to get outside your comfort zone, right? You do the interview process. Jesse Minter's a name that I've heard. The thing is, I don't look at the coaches that Cliff Kingsbury will be available. And I'm not like Mike McCarthy. I'm not wowed by these guys. Are you? Do you look at this regime of coaches and say, I have to get John Gruden? I mean, I like John Gruden, but he comes with baggage. I like Lane Kiffin. He'd love to have Jackson Dart. He's a smart offensive guy. If you have Lane Kiffin and a good defensive mind, does that work? I don't. Nobody right now knocks on the door to me and makes me say, oh, that's the savior. Nick Saban is too old. Bill Belichick, it feels like he's kind of gone a little mad. I don't want this, whatever her face is, being involved with the Giants. And I don't know that he's going to coach again. So I don't know. I don't know where we move to. All I know is that I'm in the position where I think we're going to move past where, in fact, we are with this current regime. All right. Any word from Pat Leonard, or do we want to take the 6-pack before we bring Pat in? The 6-pack? All right. Let's do it. What do we got? Bring him to me. Dave, you always say Mr. Mara hears the fans, media, planes, all that. So if he watched this DRGO clip, how would you convince him, Dable and Shane? And if you don't think so, why? How would you convince him, Dable and Shane? So I guess JJ Roth is saying, how would I convince John Mara that it's time to move on from Dable and Shane? I mean, look at the record. Look at what they've become. Look at the fact that this is another year where they're 2-7. Look at the Evan Neals. Look at the Deontay Banks. Look at the Tyler Newbin. Look at the John Michael Schmitz. Like, I mean, all I'd have to do is bring out the statistical data of what this team has been for the last 3 years. And I know, and this is the problem, that John Mara doesn't want change. He doesn't want to make a move. But at some point, don't you have to honestly admit that things are not working properly? And if they're not working properly, then even if it's uncomfortable, that you kind of have to make a change, because that's what it feels like. So I think that's what you're saying. Convince Mr. Mara that you'd have to move on. I don't think it would take a whole lot of convincing. I mean, you have the quarterback. You're excited about that. The depth is awful. The kicking game's a disaster. The drafts have not been very good. They're always hurt. Now, is that just pure bad luck, or is there something to that? They're losing games in game they should win, which I think is a real damning piece of evidence against this coaching staff. I don't think you'd have to sell very hard to move on from the regime that we're working with right now. Good question, though. Appreciate it, JJ Roth. If the Giants can't trade these guys, will they cut Neal and Hyatt after the deadline? Probably not. Probably not. You need bodies, right? I mean, Evan Neal was actually active yesterday. How exciting is that? That you went through a game and Evan Neal was a participant. So that's exciting. And Jalen Hyatt's now your kickoff guy. He's not very good at it, doesn't seem, but he's your kickoff guy. If those two guys are still on the roster, doesn't it make you think that the roster is not very talented? And if two guys that really were busts, I mean, you moved up for Jalen Hyatt. You took Evan Neal with the 7th overall pick. Here's the thing with Evan Neal, which causes some pause and hesitation from me, and that is Evan Neal was adored by almost everybody. It's not like the Giants, like when the Giants took Daniel Jones 6, and there were people around the league like, how could you take Daniel Jones 6? I don't remember anybody, not one person do I remember when they took Evan Neal with the 7th overall pick saying, that's not going to be a good pick. That's going to be a problem. So would I cut them? Probably not. You'll probably have them for the rest of the season, and then you'll probably never see them again in a Giants uniform. All right, that's 2 of the 6. What else do we got? Who's responsible for ownership duties if Mr. Mara has to step down? I'll be honest, Kevin, I don't really have the answer. I don't know if it goes to someone in the Mara family. See, the Maras have always been kind of, they run the football stuff, and the Tisch side of things is kind of a financial component to this thing. So I would think it would stay on the Mara side of things, but I don't know who specifically runs it. I mean, John Mara, I think, is 70. Is there an heir apparent then eventually, and hopefully it's not for a long time, that he passes? Like, who will be the next in line to run the Giants? I don't know. I don't know. And we can ask Pat Leonard that question as well, if in fact he ever joins us today. All right, that's 3. What can the Giants do for the rest of the season to make the games watchable? I mean, I think it's all about Jackson Dart, really, right? I mean, what else excites you about watching the Giants? I mean, we know Andrew Thomas is terrific. Fine, move to the side. We know that the offensive line is very average. We know that Wan'Dale Robinson is a 3 receiver on a good team, or maybe a 2 receiver on a mediocre team. Certainly not a number 1 receiver. I'd like to see some plays where Theo Johnson hangs on to the football. I'd like to see Brian Burns continue to play well and Abdul Carter to get some numbers. But this is all about Jackson Dart. If Jackson Dart is not playing, then that's very bad news for this organization. And that's question 4. What do we have for question 5? Why are they keeping this defensive coordinator? That's Jason Cerrone. I just think they don't want to make change. I mean, I don't have anything beyond that. Antonio Pierce, I think, over the weekend said he'd be willing to take on like an advisory role to help them get this thing straightened out. And he's shown that at a minimum, he's a capable defensive mind in this league. But I mean, I don't know why. I can't answer that question. Again, the Giants don't like to make change. In a perfect world, they would just run through the season, not make change, and make it at the end of the year. And I guess if you move on from Shane Bowen as your defensive coordinator, who's your defensive coordinator going to be? Is there a guy that's waiting in the wings? I don't think so. So you'll let Shane Bowen take the slings and arrows. He'll finish the year. He'll be gone. Looks like Dable will probably be gone. Shane may be gone. And you'll have a completely new regime within the walls of the Giants facility. And lastly, what are we looking at? Who was the last decent defensive coordinator for the Giants? Well, was it Perry Fuel? I mean, Spags was elite, right? And they won Super Bowls with him. But he wasn't the defensive coordinator. Maybe Spags, Perry Fuel was okay for a minute, but it's been quite some time since the Giants have had a defensive mind that you looked at and you said was a smart, capable defensive mind. Also, you'd figure you'd play to your strengths. I don't even know what their strengths are. I mean, do you? It's clearly not the secondary. They haven't had linebackers in 30 years. It was supposed to be the defensive front, but it doesn't feel like it's the defensive front anymore. I don't even know what the strengths are of this team. So I don't know. I'm at a loss right now, and that concludes the 6-pack that we had. I like that. I enjoy the 6-pack. I like your questions. I think you're on point with a lot of stuff, and I think it's highly entertaining. So, Nico, Steve, do we have any word from Pat Leonard, who I know is dealing with the Brian Dable press conference? But
yeah, I think Dable is going long here today. I think it's they're making him wait a little bit longer. So
I don't think Pat's going to happen then today.
Well, he said he was going to come on about 5 minutes ago, so we are waiting for him. I think he'll come on in the next couple minutes. If you want to wait for him,
we should wait.
I think we should wait. For him.
Steve, you believe we should?
I think we should.
He's got some good trade information. Maybe
really?
He's got some good.
You know what the funny thing is?
Coming out of the conference.
He said Dable speaks at 1:20, and he's usually no longer than 10 minutes. So Dable has now been speaking for 30 plus minutes.
Yeah, that's my guess.
He said he has some trade insight.
I would assume that he has some trade. He was talking a lot on Twitter this morning about different things. So I would assume he has some information that he can give us about something going on.
Okay. So why don't you carry it until we get him?
Yeah. You want me to?
Well, let's see what you can do.
I have no information.
No, but carry like you can. I mean, you want to be a host of a show, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's see. What do you got? Let's see your chops. What are you working with?
I don't think personally that the Giants are going to go anywhere in the trade deadline. Personally, in the buying sense, in the selling sense, maybe there are people that
are you going to sell? Right,
I mean, Jalen Hyatt could be moved, just like Kadarius Toney was moved. They're the same player.
What? Kadarius Toney was actually better. Jalen Hyatt has done nothing. Okay.
What are you going to get out of that?
He's got good speed.
What do you, yeah. So does Carl Lewis. Okay. And he wasn't good in the NFL. What do you think the Giants would get for a 3rd round pick who has been an absolute bust?
Is he a bust? Is he a bust, or is it the fact that we've played him 1 snap per season in the last 3 years?
I think he's a bust. But I will tell you this. So herein lies the problem. What happens if you trade him and he's capable elsewhere?
We're used to
that
it
would
at
be
this
the
point.
biggest indictment in the history of football if a guy that can't even get on the field for a team that is desperate for wide receivers is incapable with the Giants and goes somewhere else and is functional. You should fire everybody right there. And you're laughing. You should fire everybody on the spot.
But aren't we used to that already? I mean, Daniel Jones is a 7-2 quarterback at this point, throwing for 300 yards.
Daniel Jones led the Giants to a postseason berth. Daniel Jones won a playoff game. I know we have this revisionist history. He tore his ACL. He was bad last year. You cut him. It ended very unceremoniously. I understand that. But Daniel Jones put up, 28 touchdowns for you in a year and led you to a postseason berth and won a playoff game. So please don't compare Daniel Jones to Jalen Hyatt, who can't get himself onto the field on a team that is playing Lil Jordan Humphrey and Darius Slayton. Okay? Do not compare those two guys. So Jalen Hyatt.
Is Kadarius Toney a reasonable Kadarius Toney caught a game-winning Super Bowl touchdown.
Nico, you could catch. I mean, I can't.
Guys, I love your argument. but Pat Leonard is
Pat
here.
is here.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that is correct.
I guess what's the old adage? Better late than never.
Better late than
Let's bring
never.
him on. Pat Leonard from the Daily News joins us here live from the Giants facility.
Damn,
Good
calling
How are you?
me out, Dave. Calling me out.
Where
Appreciate
are
that.
you? You have a beautiful setup there.
Thanks. No, I'm at home. Today's Zoom calls. Then
Oh,
COVID allowed these teams to like take a day away at the facility. So I mean,
that's a nice setup you got going on there. All right,
thank you.
so
Same to you.
let's rifle through some quick questions. Have you ever seen a run defense like this before?
Ooh, that's a very loaded question. I guess the short answer is no.
Yeah.
I mean, after that Denver game, Dave, I think you would agree that as much as this disappoints you, nothing is surprising you now.
Mm-mm.
I think the most disappointing part about their run defense is teams are attacking the same areas of the field. Sometimes it's dressed up differently. They're gapping up the defensive linemen in different ways, catching them off guard. It just doesn't often look like the players are ready for what's coming. It feels like they're reacting rather than attacking, being aggressive and being on their toes, right? They're on their heels instead. And frankly, I understand why Deonte Banks gets put up on the big screen for his either lack of effort or poor tackling and all that. But
unbelievable.
But I'm done hearing the constant blame for bad run defense on like an outside corner. I mean, their defensive line is getting moved everywhere in the running game. Like a lot of these runs, the same way that Saquon last year suddenly had a great season out of nowhere, just because he was able to get to the line of scrimmage with that Eagles offensive line without having to do a spin move in the backfield or hesitate because someone broke through. That's what's happening with the Giants. They're getting no penetration into the backfield. So the running backs are hitting a huge gap or hole at either top or near top speed. That doesn't excuse the linebackers, the safeties, the corners, and the things that they're not doing right. But everything starts at the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. And Carl Banks said what he said last week for a reason. And honestly, Dave, Dexter Lawrence gets called out like that by a Giant legend and has one combined tackle and a tackle for loss, and that's it in the whole game. What's going on here?
It's really, really bad. You know, the thing that's so disturbing, I have so many questions, but you know what's so disturbing to me is like Saquon last week. Saquon's a Hall of Fame level running back, right? And Christian McCaffrey, the same thing. But then it's like, all right, Tank Bigsby, he looks like a Hall of Fame running back. Brian Robinson, who's a journeyman NFL running back. He like Pat, anybody can run on this defense. So my question for you is it more player blame? Is it more coach blame? Do each side of this thing get equal blame in your mind?
I think it's both. I think it's wrong to put it on just one on either side and not the other. You're absolutely right that the major issue, first of all, getting gashed by a team starting running back is bad enough. It's losing you the game. The reason this is not just bad, but it's fireable and it's get these coaches and everybody out of here is because, to your point, when these games are on the ropes, the Giants defense is folding like a cheap tent. Like Tank Bigsby, no matter how good or athletic he is or how underrated someone out there thinks he is, should never in any world go for over 100 yards on 9 carries against an NFL defense unless the players are starting to sag their shoulders, unless they're not putting their full effort in on certain plays. And what that means, it doesn't mean all 11 guys quitting. It means on any given play, one guy cutting a corner just because, oh, you know what? I'm going to go get like Abdul Carter on the Tank Bigsby 32-yard run. Abdul Carter is going right upfield, head down, blinders on, and basically Abdul looks like his job is I'm either going to sack the quarterback or if he gets the ball out or hands it off, I'm just not going to be in the play. And you just can't have that in the NFL. And, you know, I'm not just singling him out. That was just one example of one play, but that creates the hole that then Bigsby gallops through in order to get to the second level at top speed, break 2 tackles, and off we go. And so it's a trickle-down effect. I think that it's on the coaches because if your team's not giving full effort, like I've had NFL sources, coaches, I've had people reach out to me over the last few weeks and say, and ask me, right? Like trying to call me on the carpet as an NFL person in NFL media and say, why is nobody talking about the fact that their film in the second half of these games looks like the guys are giving up? Like, I mean, this is what people are saying to me. And so I said, well, I mean, I think I'm covering that, but to coaches, to people in the NFL who run a professional operation, this is why when I write about this, some people think I'm harsh about that Dable should be fired, Shane should be fired. Dave, why are we even having a conversation about whether, the level of effort from 1 to 10, what's acceptable, what's not? These are the kind of things that mean that the culture's rotten, the way the place is run is rotten. And I asked Brian Dable this today, right before I got on the show here. He kept saying it's on everybody. It's not just one person. And I said, Brian, does that really address the actual issues? Because you're not singling out this person on that play, this corner on that play, that linebacker on another play. Now, he said, well, those issues do get addressed internally. I don't see the results of them on the field, though.
Well, clearly there's no results because the results are heading in the wrong direction, not the right direction. Pat, it's another year of 2-7, right? We're now first week of November, and the season is, for all intents and purposes, over yet again. And the fans, and I hear this on my radio show and here on this show, are sick and tired of it, and they're done with it. Is there any way in your mind that Brian Dable and or Joe Shane can possibly be back next season? And are they tied at the hip, or could one return while the other one doesn't?
I think that Joe Shane, the most likely scenario, I would say, is Joe Shane stays, Dable gets fired. The second most likely scenario is that they both get fired. And the third most likely scenario, the least likely, is that they both stay. That's my opinion, my informed opinion. I don't think it should be that way. I don't even see the arguments on the Joe Shane front. I really don't. But he is tethered very strongly to ownership. Ownership clearly, and it's probably in part because they're comparing everything to the way Dave Gettleman did it prior, but they view everything they see as far as when he says, here's how we picked this player. Here are the spreadsheets we called up. Here are the people we talked to. Here's the research we did. Ownership and the Giants organization is impressed with those things. Now, it should matter that you're missing. Are they
impressed by Evan Neal? Are they impressed by Tyler Nubin? Are they impressed by John Michael Schmitz? Like, you could sit here and show me TPS reports until I'm blue in the face, but unless these guys are capable on the field, right? Are they impressed with Deonte Banks? And I know you don't blame him for tackling, but he can't cover anybody. So, Pat, yeah, you can sell me on why these are good picks, and maybe that is believable at the time. But I mean, my eyes tell me these are not good players.
No, yeah, and I blame him for not tackling. I just mean, it doesn't start with a corner when you're talking about run defense. But yeah, no, to your point, on Joe Shane, Jackson Dart, the idea behind this year, coming off of 3-14 and the GM and coach coming back, the entire sales pitch from Shane and Dable was the quarterback's the problem. Let us drop the quarterback in and it all will look the way that we're telling you it will, the way you want it to. This will start humming. And so therefore, in Joe Shane's mind, my tackle will look better. My safety will look better. My run defense will look better because we're scoring more points and teams have to throw on us and all those things. They've lost 3 in a row. Their quarterback is promising for the long term, and yet they just keep losing games. So the premise of how things were going to turn around, how they were going to get fixed was a flawed one. It was a faulty one. And it was undercut as well by the fact that the GM chose the wrong player again with Russell Wilson. And the season was essentially over before it started with the 0-3 start with him. And remember, Dave, this is another thing, and this is a whole other conversation, but they couldn't land a bunch of their top targets at that position in the first place because they're not an attractive destination. Why? Because of the look you see in Dexter Lawrence's face right now. Now, he's party to all of this losing. He doesn't have the right to say this is a losing team that I'm a part of. He's a part of it. Mm-hmm. But Dave, you see the look in his eyes the same way that now he's not the leader Saquon is, but these players like McKinney, Saquon, Daniel Jones, these guys who go somewhere else and see there's a different way of doing it. And it's like they've seen the light. Dexter, now you can see it. He needs it. You can see it. And I asked him, does he still want to play here? And he said, yes. But the reality is they just don't have enough on the field. And then when they do make plays and give themselves a chance, the coaching staff doesn't have the ability to elevate them over the top.
So when you look at the big picture here, and this is my concern, if Shane is still at least within fighting distance of being able to keep his job, do wins and losses matter? And if they do, and I want him out, or Giants fans want him out, is it in our best interest to root for the Giants to continue to lose games?
Interesting question. I personally think if the idea behind that would be to hold the organization accountable to make it better in the long term, I'm all for it when it comes to being a true fan. Like, I think that is loyalty on a fan's part to do what you think is the right thing for the organization's future. Right. As far as how should fans now approach the rest of this season, I do think with the trade deadline right on our doorstep here, I think even though you want to support Jackson Dart, you also don't want the Giants doing anything that is going to compromise that long term either. It's very dangerous to operate from a position of desperation when a GM is running a trade deadline like this. And acquiring something at this time rather than acquiring assets and building, it's tricky. It's a balance because on the one hand, you want to support Dart. You can't leave him hanging like you have, but you also don't want to give somebody the blessing to make crazy changes and trade draft picks when it's not even their draft to touch next year. I think that Joe Shane is safe unless the bottom falls completely out. What safe's the wrong word. I think Joe Shane is more likely to return unless the bottom falls out. Dave, you're going to ask me what that means. As far as an X and O's number of wins and losses, I know this is probably not the answer you're looking for, but when they finished 3-14 and they kept the GM and coach, I really lost a lot of any semblance of understanding of where the Giants' barometer is. Like, you and I used to be able to, like, if we sat down on a couch having beers watching football on a Sunday, you could tell me, the Jaguar standards are kind of here versus where the Giants as an organization, because of their tradition, is here. And then the Cowboys should be here, but their owner doesn't really pay enough attention, so they're here. Every organization has like a standard and a level that is satisfactory for them to be. The Steelers is a good example of one that it's just not okay for them to have a losing season, right? And so I just don't know right now what makes Giants ownership finally throw their hat and, kick the door and say, that's it. Because I've seen so many things that over the years with all these other coaches and even general manager Dave Gettleman that cost people their jobs, they just keep piling up on this regime and the guys are still working here. So I don't know, 5 wins, 2 wins, 3 wins. I would say, in my opinion, anything under 5 would be the bottom falling out to me. But 5 wins, do you feel good about Joe Shane if this team scrounges 5 wins together?
But I was telling the guys before, Pat, like 5 wins is pathetic, but it's better than 3. And you can't argue that the schedule's been brutal, right? So if you're Joe Shane and you get called onto the carpet, you get called into John Mara's office. All right, you know what? I'm so dissatisfied. Well, Mr. Mara, I won 5 games. We had a rash of injuries. We had the toughest schedule in all of football, and I now have the quarterback. So we clearly are moving in the right direction. Let me finish the job. I'm not saying he should keep his job, but I think that for the Giants fan, in your best interest might be, if you want these guys gone, might be to root against the Giants now.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I don't disagree with you in the fact that argument's already worked for the GM, right? The argument of injuries, this player undercut us. And I should add this, Dave, because we're at that time of year now. Last January, it became clear to Brian Daboll, once they started meeting with John Mara and ownership, it went from Joe Shane talking about we to talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
And Daboll recognized that as much as this was the collaborative process and they kept doing those joint press conferences, when push came to shove, he could see that, I'm going to end up walking the plank on my own. And once that happened last January through a series of conversations, they really thawed their working relationship, chilled for several months there. And then obviously they got together, they did the draft, they did free agency, all that kind of stuff. But even when they were in the same places, going and doing the same work, it wasn't the same. Now, Daboll, we talked to today, even as far as the trade deadline, really kind of kept like a plane of glass between him and Shane. Was basically like, I'm in those conversations, but I'm only coaching the team that's on the field. I guess I bring that up to say Shane there's a process that already almost played out last year for this general manager to blame the coach and blame some players and to stay. And Daboll knows that because he almost went through it. It almost cost him his job last year.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's going to be a very interesting stretch run of this season because the ownership is, as far as I understand, is still leaning on keeping the GM. So yes, if you're a fan and you don't want this GM here, probably the only way it happens is if they lose out or they only win one more game, the bottom falls completely out. And really the way that would happen, Dave, is if Jackson Dart, I hope it doesn't happen, knock on wood, but is if Jackson Dart can't play.
Well, it's only a matter of time. I mean, if he keeps playing the way he plays and they keep running him down 17 and take that kind of hit the way he continues to, it's only a matter of time until Jackson Dart doesn't play. And I don't know how much of that's on Daboll. Like Brian Daboll, like down 17, couldn't you say something to the effect of, I want you to stay in the game. I want you to lead us on the final drive. The game is, for all intents and purposes, over. But if you're going to take hits like that, I can't play you. I'm going to take you out of the game. So make wise decisions. I don't know that I've ever seen a quarterback make more just dumb, I'll say, decisions in games than Jackson Dart. He takes punishment like I've never seen before.
Yeah, he's reckless with his body, similar to how Daniel Jones was when he was here. Honestly, it was like a similar conversation. And yes, you're right. So the coach's job in those scenarios is to be the adult in the room because players are always going to want to play.
Especially rookie players, right?
Yes, they always are going to want to play. And it's also even tricky to do it the way you did, which is like, hey, I'm putting you on the field, but don't take off, don't risk yourself, like just play within yourself because he's that kind of player. So in that moment, like even when I asked Daboll about the decision to leave Dart in, first of all, he nearly got killed over the middle by Bethune, the linebacker. He got hit hard and was banged up. He's lucky he didn't get hurt worse there.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked Daboll about the decision to leave him in, and he says, yeah, well, at the time it was 34-24. So first of all, it was not. It was 34-17 when you left him in the game. Then he scored that touchdown after taking that big hit to make it 34-24. And then he says, yeah, and then if we get the onside kick, then there's 50 seconds left. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, and then what?
Right.
Like, what do you mean? Like, listen to what you're saying. Those are the things that, again, like I said, the bad run defense, it's bad. But then the lack of effort on certain plays as backup running backs are running all over you, that's what gets you fired. Brian Daboll, win some, lose some. That doesn't get you fired. But losing constantly and making decisions where you're mismanaging the clock, kicking field goals when you should go for touchdowns, leaving your franchise quarterback in the game and putting him at risk. Dan Quinn looks like an absolute moron after that last night. And you could see his look on the sideline. The second he got hurt, you could see Quinn knew it. It was like, I fell asleep at the wheel. I was wrong. That's the position Daboll keeps putting them in. And Dave, let me just say this. Here are the numbers. 2-7 this season for the Giants. 3-18 in their last 21 games. 5-21 or 3-18 last 21. 5-21 in their last 26. 5-17-1 in the NFC East. Let me say that again. 5-17-1 in the NFC East. 2-14-0 against the Eagles and Cowboys.
It's really an embarrassment. Last one, let you go. Love chatting with you, by the way.
Thanks.
And that is trade deadline. It's tomorrow, 4:00. What do we think? My producer said they're going to trade Jalen Hyatt. I don't know who in their right mind would want at least exploring.
Yeah. So Neal and Hyatt are two players that the Giants, even though Hyatt was on the field and returning kicks in this game, these are two players that the Giants have shown they don't have full trust in. They haven't been able to make enough plays for them, or they have shown an inability to know how to use them. And so they're trying to get something for these guys. I think that just dealing them for a 7th or a conditional 7th or something like that, at that point, why is it worth it? And honestly, I think the Giants have managed these situations with optics as their number one thought process anyway. Like, in other words, they want to do a trade that looks good. They don't want to do a trade that looks like we dumped a failed first or third round pick. So they're going to govern it not just by what they get back, but how it looks, which is, again, how they operate under this regime. As far as what the Giants are acquiring, I think even if you, like me, think 2-7 season's over, you can only support Jackson Dart if it's reasonable. You have to do your due diligence as a general manager and Joe Shane here, no matter what you're going to end up doing. So you make the calls on Jalen Waddle. You call the Saints on Chris Olave. You call the Raiders on Jacoby Myers, all these things. You do kick the tires on all these things. But in the end, I think the organization has to have some sense of sanity to this. And any upgrades have to be reasonable and not expensive. And it's just a tricky situation to be able to balance those two things, because if you're acquiring a player of worth and import, you're probably either paying a high draft pick or you're extending him with a significant salary, and the Giants aren't exactly flush with cap space either. So they're up against it, and I think what you can probably expect is less activity than you would like to see.
I lied. I have one more for you, because we've had this question thrown a couple times out. First of all, I heard John Mara did not look great yesterday. Left at halftime. Really looks like he's having a rough time in his recovery from cancer, which, aside from football, obviously is real life, and we feel awful about that. But
yeah,
I mean, what's the succession plan? Because one day he's not going to be running this organization. Who's next in line to run this organization?
Yeah, no, as you said, first of all, best wishes to John and to the Mara family. It's sad to see. You hope to see him bounce back quickly. I know he's fighting hard. The Giants, even though John Mara, Steve Tisch are the co-owners, and now you have Julia Koch in the mix as well as a minority owner, the Mara family has always had, and the Tisch family have always had, more family members in high-ranking positions with the Giants involved in these organization-wide discussions and decisions. And so Chris Mara, Tim McDonald, John Mara's nephew, there's Steve Tisch, there's Jonathan Tisch, his brother and the treasurer of the organization. Julia Koch now joins that mix as well. And so I think they already work as a collective. Now, what you're asking me, though, is we all know that John stands as far as who represents the Giants,
right.
because of their history.
Outward-facing person, right? He's the ultimate. It feels like he's the ultimate front-facing decision maker. Yes.
Yes, he's the president, CEO, and he's the ultimate buck stops here figurehead and person, and who warrants and commands that respect in the organization. I think the answer probably would be, either Chris Mara in the immediate future, or Chris Mara in the immediate future to Tim McDonald eventually one day. I think is a name that you should remember, that I know is already on people's minds. He's, running player personnel, helping run player personnel, and has worked his way through the organization. I definitely think that those are both names to keep an eye on, but especially Tim from a standpoint of being the future, and you're not just talking succession plans, but also the future of what the Giants look like and who ends up in that position. That would not shock me.
All right. Well, Pat, you were terrific, even though you were late, and we do hold that against you a little bit, but you're really talented and bring a lot of great insight and funny and all those good things. So thank you again, and we'll do this again at some point soon.
Yes, and please, everybody, join me on YouTube, Talking Ball Live with Pat Leonard. We're post-game every week from the stadium, and then also Tuesday night, gonna go live after the trade deadline passes. So tomorrow night, check us out. It's PL on NFL is the handle there. Dave, I appreciate you having me on every time, man. It's a blast.
All right. That, of course, is Pat Leonard from the New York Daily News and Talking Ball, and he does a great job. So we've gone way past the time we're supposed to say goodbye. So let's do that now. We'll say goodbye. We'll be back Wednesday, 1 o'clock Eastern. But you heard Pat said, doesn't expect anything massive at the deadline. If anybody wants Evan Neal and Jalen Hyatt, you can have them. I don't think the Giants would embarrass themselves by trading for like a conditional 7th round pick. So we'll see. When we come on Wednesday, we'll have an answer to all those questions. And And we look forward to that as well. 1 o'clock Eastern, Wednesday and Friday, and then Sunday after the Giants and the Bears. This is Dave Rothenberg for Dave Rothenberg's Giants Obsession. So if you like that live stream, check out this video or the other live streams. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.